Hello, my name is Cindy Flores. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I'm trained in mindfulness-based stress reduction. And I've been asked to speak with you, especially through these difficult times of the pandemic, about mindfulness and how that can be useful. So this is a collaboration with Friends Life Care and Whitehorse Village that we're bringing you these series. So the word mindfulness has been around for years and people use it and throw it around as a household word. And I'd like to explain a little bit more in the terms that I'm speaking so that you have a clear vision of what I'm referring to. So mindfulness, as it's defined, is paying attention on purpose of the present moment without judgment, or otherwise said, being here now. So mindfulness is not necessarily something you do, though we will be talking about mindful exercises. It's really a way of life. However, just like physical health only comes if you do repeatedly certain activities like exercise and eating properly, and those types of things lead to physical health. There are activities and exercise components to mindfulness, and we'll be talking about that. But in totality, it's about going through each present moment mindfully and making choices as to how you want to interact with that moment. So we were born to be mindful. However, our society really applauds and kind of encourages us to multitask. But now we're in a time where we're really have to slow down and be with ourselves. And this is causing some anxiety and stress for everyone. So if you're feeling extra stressed right now, let me assure you that everyone's life has changed. It's like someone put the brakes on and we're reinventing how to do life. But it's at those moments of time of reinvention when we can make mindful choices. Because maybe when we come through this, maybe there's aspects of life that you want to change. Maybe there's ways that you interact with certain people that you want to look different moving forward. And so that's why we're here. We're here through this time to be supportive to each other, even though we're all sitting in our separate quarters. So studies have been done over the last 3 decades on actually having a daily mindful practice. And some of the benefits are pretty amazing. That what it has shown is if you have a daily mindful practice for about 10 minutes a day over an 8-week period, the benefits that they're actually able to measure are as such, and I'm going to read the list. Improve mental and physical health, improved cognitive functioning, including memory, decreased levels of stress and tension, decreased rates of disease, improved cardiovascular health, improved quality of sleep, decreased pain levels, improved social behavior, such as improved self-confidence, decreased anxiety, improved family life quality. And that's just to name a few. There really are many others, and over the series, we'll talk about some of the others. In mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is a curriculum in which I'm trained, there are 7 attitudinal foundations. And each one of these 6 sessions, I'm going to integrate at least one attitudinal foundation. So the one for today is acceptance. It's been difficult, I would say, at least for myself, to really accept the changes that we've encountered over the last few weeks. And I think people are getting it at the rate that they're getting it. But mindfulness tells us that we shouldn't close our minds and our ears to things that we don't want to accept just because they're unpleasant. Mindfulness also talks about non-judgment. And what I will say about that, it doesn't mean that you don't feel sad, doesn't mean that you don't desire a different life. But it's the words that we use. A mindful individual will watch the words that they use because the words that you use will change the focus of what you see. So if what you are seeing in this time is, fearful and discouraging and scary, if those are the words that are coming out of your mouth, you're going to see more of that. A mindful individual will choose to see it as it is, but not label it as such. A mindful person will step back and say, this picture is bigger than me, and maybe I don't like this set of circumstances, and I'm longing for my life to look different. But how in this moment can I frame this so that I'm enjoying life, watching how I am proceeding in day to day life, especially while it looks so different? So, acceptance is where we're starting today. And sometimes we have to accept our own personal situation. If you're somebody who has chronic pain and there's been no way to completely eliminate that pain, mindfulness would teach you how to accept that pain and maybe work through it so that it's less prominent in your life. As I said, one of the benefits is learning how to deal with chronic pain or a chronic situation that you have no ability to change. And so this is the perfect opportunity, because we're all going through this together, to say, how will I develop a practice that will help me be the best version of me? Just like I go to the gym or I do exercises every day or I walk or I swim to keep my physical health optimum, what I am encouraging you to do, if you're not already doing it, is to have a daily mindful practice. Today, we're going to keep it really simple. We're just going to integrate the breathing process, because though I'm sure you know how to breathe, I'm not indicating that you're not breathing, and be grateful for that, that you are breathing. It's about the way we do diaphragmatic breathing actually has shown that our one nervous system, which is our sympathetic, that's our fight or flight, and that's what we're feeling when we're anxious and we're worried about everything that's changing, um, can get switched to what we call the parasympathetic. That's our relaxation response. And just deep breathing, the way I'm going to show you in a minute, um, has been shown to kick start the relaxation response. So if you've ever been in a stressful moment and someone says, just breathe, it sounds like they're just asking you to stop what you're doing, but there's actually a physical reason to do this breathing. It actually will change the way you can see and respond to a stressful situation. So let's take a moment and we'll just, I'll introduce the deep breathing for today. Um, and what that will be like is you can breathe through your nose or your mouth. If you've been taught one way or the other, I'm not going to try to change that. If you've never done this before, just choose to breathe through your nose or your mouth, whichever is more comfortable for you. Okay. So take a deep breath in, letting the lungs completely fill. And what you'll notice is as the lungs fill with air, your belly will get pushed out a little bit. And then when you've filled your lungs, you're going to slowly release the air. The stomach will come back in. Your lungs will go back to the resting state. So let's just take a moment and let's just practice a couple before we actually just do it without me instructing you in any way. So once again, take a deep breath in. Now slowly let it out. That probably feels different than what you're used to. But this is what we call the anchor of our practices. So we will start each practice, each time that I speak with you, we will start with the breath. So that's why I'm introducing it today. So we're going to take a minute where we're going to do nothing but deep breathing. And I'm going to refrain from saying anything. So there will be quiet. And I just want you to be with yourself while you are taking these breaths in and out. for just the next 60 seconds. So take a deep breath in, exhale, and continue. And just take one more in breath and out breath, and we'll end this practice. And now check in with yourself and see if you're noticing anything different within you. Many people will notice that they feel a little calmer. Some people will report that they feel tired. If you're not feeling either of those, that's okay, because what mindfulness teaches us is just to be aware of the present moment. So if you're not feeling calmer, don't judge that. Just notice and say, that's not my experience right now. When I started doing mindfulness over 20 years ago, a friend introduced me to it. I was anything but calmer, at least inwardly. I was always doing my grocery list or thinking about what was coming next or what happened before I got there. So it's not everyone's natural experience to just go within and feel calm. I never thought back then this would be such a major part of my life and I'd actually be teaching it. But what got my attention is when I stuck with it. I did the deep breathing every day. And after a few weeks, my children said, "What are you doing, Mom? You're nicer. You seem calmer." They noticed a difference. Because what science has shown, what the research shows, is if you do a mindful activity, it can be as short as 5 to 10 minutes a day. It does not have to be an hour, but some people do it for an hour. That the brain actually grows. Just like muscles grow when you exercise them, you can have a measurable difference in your brain after 8 weeks of a mindful practice. And what's even more important, perhaps, is that the areas that grow are the areas of problem solving, decision making, peace, and joy. So if any of those sound like, yes, I could use more of any of those, then I encourage you after this session that you practice this on a daily basis on your own. I wanted to show you this simple exercise today because we'll get involved in more guided meditation in future sessions. And sometimes people say, I can't do that for myself. If that's the case, you can download apps. There are apps such as Headspace that actually will guide you through meditations. But through this series, we're also going to be introducing some guided meditations. Some meditations are formal, just like what we, are discussing here. But you can do an informal meditation at home. For instance, John Kabat-Zinn, who is the creator of mindfulness-based stress reduction, says, when you're in the shower, be in the shower. In other words, feel the water as it's on your face. Feel the sudsiness of the soap as bring up, a sudsiness with the soap. Be there. Don't be thinking about the lunch you're going to be having after the shower or, who you're going to talk to next. Be thinking about being in that present moment. So if you have an activity, and this is a great time to be thinking about what you can do now, um, everything can be a mindful practice. Washing the dishes, If you're at your home and you're potting plants or just, turning the soil to get ready, hopefully for, the spring and your gardens to start blooming, just be very present with the feel of the dirt, with every move of the body as you do an exercise out in the garden. We're not out and about doing things as we normally do, but we are still doing exercises that can be mindful or they can be mindless. If we're doing it, but our mind is focused on yesterday or anxious about tomorrow, we're not being mindful. But I wanted you to be aware that you don't have to be doing a formal practice to be doing mindfulness. But let's now that we've practiced the breathing, I would just like us to do it again. And what I will do is I will prompt you, because if we do this for 2 minutes this time, you might notice that your mind wanders. So I will be prompting you to bring your attention back to the breath. And I ask you to do it without judgment of, oh, look, I can't do this. Too many people start mindfulness judging themselves. I did the same thing. I thought I was just the world's worst meditator because I could not keep my mind focused on the breath. But here we are all these years later, and it's no problem for me now. So let's do 2 minutes of just breathing. And periodically, I will just pop in with a comment to remind you that if you've wandered, to just bring it back to the sensation of the breath. Okay, we'll start now. So take a deep breath in and breathe out. And we're going to continue doing this now for 2 minutes. If it feels helpful, you can close your eyes or just gently focus on one object. If you've noticed that your thoughts have wandered, just bring it back to the breath, the sensation of the breath in this present moment. If you're noticing judgments of this exercise, judgments of how you're doing it, just see if you can release that. Just be with what is and come back to the breath. Okay, just take 3 more deep breaths in and out. And at the end of the third exhale, that will be the completion of this exercise. Everybody tends to have a different rate of breathing, so hopefully I gave you enough time to end that third exhale. So as I said, and I will remind you, our attitudinal foundation for today is acceptance. And I wanted to end this session by telling you, or perhaps reminding you, of Viktor Frankl. Many people have heard of him, but if you have not heard of him before, He was a psychologist that was placed in a concentration camp. So if anyone knew isolation, distress, despair, it was someone like Viktor Frankl. And he was surrounded by horror, he was surrounded by death and despair. He was watching other people get fall ill around him. And what he chose to do during this time was to focus on past experiences. So he would close his eyes and he would engage his mind in memories of celebrations, family dinners. He would envision his loved ones who he couldn't spend time with. He didn't even know where they were or how they were doing. And he would focus on those events and he would hear the laughter in his head and he would smell those special meals and he would engage all the senses in these experiences. We now know through science that our body reacts to what we tell our mind. And so, what he was able to do through those experiences was he was able to keep his mind and his body stronger than the average person's. He not only survived, but he was able to thrive through a horrendous experience, a very prolonged, horrendous experience. And when he was no longer and in the concentration camp, he actually wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning, and created a therapy called logotherapy. And so we now know there was such value to that. And I want to end this session today by ending it with a quote from Viktor Frankl, because it really sums up mindfulness, even though he wasn't teaching mindfulness with that term. And what Viktor Frankl said was, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So, to just summarize what he's sharing there, is that how we respond to this situation of being alone, isolated, being surrounded by a pandemic, really there's a choice. We can inundate ourselves with the news and feel panicked, or we can turn inward and say, here's an opportunity for me maybe to get to know myself better, or maybe to look at life differently. Maybe I'm going to have a new sense of how I want to move forward and how I want to appreciate life and others once we were through this event. Because, like Viktor Frankl, he got to go on and have a full life afterwards. And we will return to something that resembles normal, but we also have an opportunity to make it better. So, with that, I'm going to close for now and we'll resume at another time. I thank you for being here with me. And for now, stay safe, stay healthy, and goodbye.